I could hire nobody but women at 77 cents on the dollar to do the exact same work as men, and everybody else were stupid enough not to hire any of the women, I'd be the richest man in America.
Well, I mean, as far as the idea that small business would approve of single-payer health care, we can look to the thriving small business sector in Canada, Britain, and other socialized medicine countries where small business clearly leads the way in their massive and growing economies. There's only one person and one group that is coming to the party here with a gun. And the only group, I mean, you said conservatives love guns. Liberals love guns far more. They just love guns that are being used by the government against conservatives.
So during World War II, somebody wanted to sell arms to the Germans. That was cool, right?
That's a national security threat and was illegal for a reason. That's not freedom of association.
Oh, so but now we have qualifications. Okay.
No. It's called an externality to a relationship. There are no externalities to a relationship where you come into my business and I say I'm not serving you. It's you and me, and a consensual transaction has not taken place. If I sell you a nuclear weapon, there are probably going to be ramifications to me selling you a nuclear weapon.
But you'll shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay wedding.
I can assure you we'll be getting to shutting down businesses.
Give me an example.
As a result.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example of
that exact example.
Just a second.
Hold on. What was the question there?
The question is, why do they need that? Don't they have Scrooge McDuck money bins that they go and swim the breaststroke in each night? I mean, I'm sure that Michael, you went to public school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did I for elementary school, and I think I was in the Christmas pageant. I believe I was an elf, and somehow I didn't magically turn into a Christian. And my guess is that both you and I could probably sing in beautiful two-part harmony all of Silent Night, probably based on what we learned in public school. The idea that this is some sort of grand imposition or grand inquisition, and that the acting out of the mere saying of the word Christmas in a public school is somehow an establishment of religion to the exclusion of all other religions. Before you warned that perhaps I should take things a little more lightly. On this one, I do take it pretty lightly.
Good.
So yeah, the idea that
I'm proud of you, man.
The idea that religion is being imposed on me by a public school when there is a Christmas pageant I can opt in or out of is if this is as bad as it gets, then I'm willing to live with that.
Yeah, I grew up as I was one of only 3 Jewish children in my elementary school and the only Jewish child in my grade. And for the Christmas pageant, very regularly they had me saying, we celebrate Christmas around the world like this. And then I'd say, and in Israel, we don't celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Hanukkah. And that was okay, it built character. To go through talking about that, and I think there is something useful to being able to stand out from the crowd and somehow man up and take it. And however, the one thing that I will not forgive, is so many of these multicultural pageants. They have these wonderful Christmas carols that are some of the best music in the whole world. And then we have, I had a little dreidel, I made it out of clay. I mean, you know, the Christians are singing about the Savior of the world, and we're singing about a spinning top. This is not fair. This is not good.
Michael, we have Bizet and we have Gershwin, but we don't have Beethoven or Brahms. We're gonna have to let it go.
Gershwin.
No, Charles, I can't enter into any contractual relationship of any kind with a 5-year-old.
I call sell nuclear bombs to Hitler. I call exploit children. Okay.
I'm sorry to look at you like this, Charles.
What are you giving me?
I'm ruining your life here. You can't sell nukes to people. You can't exploit 5-year-olds. I mean, boy, I'm really rough around here.
Ben, this is great. I should use your trick, because government is always the problem. It's always the problem.
Pretty much.
Frankly,
people want a lot of things. You know, housing, health, to live forever, a pony. I mean, there are a lot of things that we all want out of life. The reality is that there is no pony tree, which makes it difficult.
And if we don't have policemen, firemen, it would be chaos.
Of course that's true.
Well, I agree it's not, but is it racism or government banality? I mean, as I say about it, is it racism or government being corrupt? Meaning that in the city of Seattle, for example, they can't fill a pothole, but they become evil geniuses when it comes to the parking meters. Right?
And you know, as a liberal, right, that's what you say about me. And,
no, I think you're a leftist.
And most liberals are.
It's true. You might say that workers of the world, for lack of a better word, are uniting. You know, as far as the.
It's easy to make facetious comments. It's very hard to dispute data.
Well,
since you provided no data in that actual answer, it's not that difficult. As far as the
But once we set that kind of precedence, where will it end? And I think, you know,
with them going out of business, because everybody will find another florist. That's where it'll end.
No,
the question that I was going to ask, though, is it's not any person of color, I assume. I mean, if they decided that they were going to staff the school board, for example, with Ward Connerly and Thomas Sowell and Condoleezza Rice and Clarence Thomas, you'd be standing up against that and saying that these are not real black people, I assume. Well, really? Boy, I need to get Thomas Sowell to run over there.
Well, I mean, I have had advantages of birth in the sense that I grew up in a bedroom with 3 younger sisters in a house with 1 bathroom, which made waiting a long time. Were you unaware that they had a position like this about gay Boy Scout leaders? Were you really unaware of that?
Were they unaware of our policy? Evidently they were, because they signed us up.
Correct. They were unaware and you weren't. So that means they got out of the contract. You can't form a contract based on non-mutual consent. Done.
How can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
Why do you believe that government compulsion is always the answer? Read history.
It's absolutely true. It's like I can't eat spicy picante sauce, so I'm not Mexican enough. You know, it's true, you know, in every culture, whether it's Asian, you know, black, Mexican, there is, while you may not have grown up talking about it over your, you know, tea and toast.
I mean, in my family, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, you're not Jewish enough.
You're not Jewish enough.
Capitalism discriminates against no color, no creed, and no sexuality. They want the cash.